Look at your hand for a second. Whatever color your skin is, it did not happen by accident. It is not random. It is not just decoration. It is a record of sunlight, migration, survival, pregnancy, bones, food, climate, and thousands of generations of humans slowly adapting to the planet. Your skin color is basically a message from your ancestors, and the message was written by the sun, which is rude because the sun never asked permission. It just sat there, blasting Earth with light, heat, and invisible radiation, while life down here had to figure out how to survive it. And humans were no exception. The story of human skin color is not a story about beauty. It is not a story about superiority. It is not a story about one group being more evolved than another. It is one of the clearest examples of evolution doing exactly what evolution does, solving a problem, again and again, in different places under different skies, with the same raw material, the human body. So let us start at the beginning. If you trace the human family tree far enough back, every person alive today shares ancestors in Africa. And those early Homo sapiens were not pale. They had deeply pigmented skin, all of them. Around 300,000 years ago, when our species emerged in Africa, light skin as we think of it today did not exist in humans. There were no blonde northern Europeans, no pale redheads, no fair-skinned populations living under weak winter skies. Humanity began under intense African sunlight. And under that sun, deeply pigmented skin was not just useful, it was protection. To understand why, you need to understand what skin is actually doing. Most people think of skin like packaging, the outer wrapping, the thing that keeps the inside parts from becoming outside parts. But skin is not just packaging. Skin is an organ, your largest organ. And right now, without asking for attention, it is doing an absurd number of jobs. It holds moisture in. It keeps infections out. It helps regulate temperature. It senses touch, pain, heat, and pressure. And one of its most important jobs is protecting you from ultraviolet radiation. UV radiation is invisible energy from the sun. You cannot see it. You do not feel it landing on you in each individual beam, but it is constantly hitting your skin. And biologically, UV light is not gentle. It breaks chemical bonds. It damages DNA. It can cause mutations inside skin cells. And when enough of those mutations happen in the wrong places, cancer can begin. So skin needed a shield. That shield is melanin. Melanin is the pigment that gives skin its color. More melanin usually means darker skin. Less melanin usually means lighter skin. But melanin is not just color. Melanin is sunscreen. Natural sunscreen, built into the body, always on. Melanin absorbs and scatters UV radiation before it can reach deeper, more vulnerable tissues. So in places with extremely strong sunlight, like equatorial Africa, more melanin was a massive survival advantage. It protected DNA. It reduced damage. It helped people live long enough to reproduce. And evolution cares about that. Evolution does not care what looks fashionable. It does not care what a society later decides is beautiful. Evolution runs a colder calculation. Does this trait help you survive and pass on your genes? If yes, it tends to stay. If no, it tends to disappear. Under the intense African sun, deeply pigmented skin was a very strong yes. But UV radiation was not only threatening DNA, it was threatening something else. Something tiny, something invisible, something absolutely essential for pregnancy. Folate. Folate is a form of vitamin B9. It helps the body build and repair cells. And during early pregnancy, it becomes especially important. In the first few weeks after conception, before many people even know they are pregnant, the embryo forms something called the neural tube. That structure eventually becomes the brain and spinal cord. If there is not enough folate at the wrong moment, the neural tube may not close properly. The results can be devastating. Severe birth defects, pregnancy loss, children who do not survive. And here is the terrifying part. UV radiation can break down folate. So in environments with powerful sunlight, lighter skin could allow more UV to penetrate and destroy more folate. That created a second selection pressure. Dark skin did not only protect adults from DNA damage, it also helped protect future children before they were even born. That is why deeply pigmented skin was so important in Africa. It solved two problems at once: protect the body, protect reproduction. In that environment, it was not optional. It was one of the reasons our species survived. So now the obvious question is this: if dark skin was so useful, why did lighter skin ever evolve? Why would evolution change something that worked so well? The answer is that humans moved. Between roughly 70,000 and 100,000 years ago, groups of Homo sapiens began leaving Africa, not in one heroic march, not with maps, not with a plan, just generation after generation, moving a little farther, across the Middle East, into Europe, across Asia, eventually into the rest of the world. And as humans moved away from the equator, the sunlight changed. The sun itself did not get weaker. The sun was still the same giant nuclear furnace with no concern for our problems. But at higher latitudes, sunlight hits Earth at a lower angle. It passes through more atmosphere. More UV gets filtered out. Winters become longer. Days become shorter. Clouds block more light. For humans living far north, the problem flipped. In Africa, there was too much UV. Far from the equator, there was too little. And suddenly, the same melanin that protected people beautifully in Africa created a new problem: vitamin D. Your body makes vitamin D when UVB radiation hits your skin. That means your skin is partly a solar panel. It uses sunlight to manufacture something your body desperately needs. Vitamin D helps your body absorb calcium and phosphorus. Without it, bones cannot develop properly. Children can develop rickets. Legs can bend. Growth can be stunted. Bones can soften. In adults, deficiency can weaken the skeleton. And in women, severe deficiency could affect the pelvis, making childbirth more dangerous. Vitamin D also matters for immune function, muscle strength, and other systems in the body. So this was not a small issue. For early humans living under weak northern sunlight, making enough vitamin D could become a matter of survival. Now imagine someone with very dark skin living in a northern environment thousands of years ago. No supplements, no fortified milk, no vitamin tablets, no modern medicine, no grocery store stocked with foods from every climate on Earth. Their melanin was still doing its job. It was blocking UV. But now the body needed some of that UV to make vitamin D. The shield that saved people under one sky became a barrier under another. This is the trade-off. Too much UV and you need protection. Too little UV and you need absorption. Skin color evolved in the middle of that balance. In northern regions, people with mutations that reduced melanin slightly could make more vitamin D from weak sunlight. That gave them healthier bones, better survival, better reproductive success. So those genetic variations spread. Not instantly, not evenly, not everywhere the same way, but slowly, over thousands of years. Populations living in lower UV environments tended to evolve lighter skin. This is one of the most elegant things about evolution. It does not create one perfect human body for every place. It tunes the body to the environment. But the story gets even stranger. For a long time, people assumed Europeans became light-skinned soon after moving north. But ancient DNA changed that picture. Early European hunter-gatherers were often still darker-skinned than many Europeans today. One famous ancient individual from Britain, often called Cheddar Man, lived around 10,000 years ago. DNA analysis suggests he likely had dark or medium-dark skin, dark curly hair, and blue eyes. To modern eyes, that combination feels surprising, but it should not. It only feels surprising because we are used to the modern package: pale skin with blue eyes, dark skin with dark eyes. But evolution does not care about our categories. Traits can appear separately. They can mix in ways that later societies forget were normal. The very pale skin associated with parts of northern Europe today seems to have become widespread relatively recently, roughly in the last several thousand years. And the reason may not have been sunlight alone. It may have been food, specifically farming. When hunter-gatherers lived in Europe, many ate diets that included natural vitamin D sources: fish, shellfish, organ meats, wild animal foods. Their skin made vitamin D from sunlight, but food helped too. Then agriculture spread. People began eating more grains. Wheat, barley, oats, rye. Cereals became the center of the diet. Grains can feed large populations, but they are not rich sources of vitamin D. So farming created a new problem. People in low sunlight regions were now getting less vitamin D from food. That meant their skin had to do more of the work. And if the skin was still too dark for the weak northern sun, vitamin D deficiency became more likely. So the pressure for lighter skin increased. Agriculture did not just change what humans ate. It changed the evolutionary pressures acting on the human body. That is wild. A cultural shift changed biology. Human beings invented farming, and farming pushed human evolution in new directions. Then there is another important detail. Farming communities were larger and denser than hunter-gatherer bands. More people lived closer together. More children were born in one place. More villages traded, mixed, and expanded. So if a useful mutation appeared in a farming population, it could spread faster than it would in a small scattered band. That combination mattered. Less dietary vitamin D, more dependence on sunlight, larger populations, more connected settlements. Together, those forces helped lighter skin spread in some regions much faster than scientists once expected. But here is something people often misunderstand. Skin color is not controlled by one gene. There is no single switch that says dark or light. It is controlled by many genes working together. Some affect how much melanin your body makes. Some affect what kind of melanin it makes. Some affect how melanin is packaged inside skin cells. Some affect how your skin responds to sunlight over time. Skin color is a polygenic trait, a team effort. And this leads to one of the most fascinating facts in the whole story. Different populations evolved lighter skin in different genetic ways. Europeans and East Asians both evolved lighter skin compared with equatorial populations. But they did not always use the same genetic path to get there. Similar result, different mutations, different route. That is called convergent evolution. It means evolution found a similar solution more than once, in separate populations, on separate parts of the planet, because the same environmental problem kept appearing. Low UV, need more vitamin D, reduce some melanin. When evolution independently finds the same kind of answer multiple times, that tells you the pressure was strong. Skin color was not random. It was a response, a biological negotiation with sunlight. And while we are talking about pigmentation, there is another famous trait worth mentioning: blue eyes. For most of human history, everyone had brown eyes. Blue eyes likely began with a mutation that reduced melanin in the iris. That mutation appeared relatively recently in human history, thousands of years ago, probably somewhere near the Black Sea region. And today, everyone with blue eyes carries a trace of that ancient genetic event. That is strange to think about. A trait that feels old, mythical, and deeply rooted is actually quite recent compared with the age of our species. It is younger than many of the things we think of as ancient. Human appearance is not fixed. It is still being written. Now step back and look at the whole picture. Skin color, one of the traits humans have used to divide, rank, judge, and mistreat each other, is biologically a sunlight adaptation, a UV calibration system, a balance between protection and absorption. Dark skin is not primitive. It is the ancestral human condition. It is the original configuration of Homo sapiens. It is extremely effective in high UV environments. Light skin is not superior. It is a later adaptation to low UV environments. It helps make vitamin D where sunlight is weaker. Neither is better in every environment. Each makes sense under a different sky. That is the point. The same sun pushed some populations toward more melanin and pushed others toward less, not because the sun had preferences, not because nature was sorting people by value, but because sunlight changes with latitude, climate, diet, and season. The deepest irony is that humans built enormous social myths around something that began as a practical biological trade-off. We built hierarchies around a vitamin D problem, around folate protection, around UV exposure, around calcium absorption, around latitude, around sunlight. Civilizations created prejudice out of an adaptation. That is one of the most tragic misunderstandings in human history, because every skin tone alive today comes from the same species, the same African origin, the same long journey, the same evolutionary story. Every shade of human skin is evidence of survival. Every shade is a solution. Every shade is a map of where ancestors lived, what sunlight they faced, what food they ate, what their bodies had to protect, and what their children needed to survive. Modern life has changed the equation again. We have sunscreen, vitamin D supplements, fortified food, indoor work, artificial light, global migration, air conditioning, heating, clothing, modern medicine. Humans can now live in environments our skin did not originally evolve for. A dark-skinned person can live far north and take vitamin D. A light-skinned person can live near the equator and use shade, clothing, and sunscreen. Technology has partly separated skin color from its ancient job, but evolution has not stopped. It never stops. The inputs have changed. The environment has changed. The pressures have changed. And no one knows what humans will look like 100,000 years from now. But we do know this. Your skin is not just color. It is history. It is chemistry. It is sunlight. It is migration. It is survival. It is your ancestors negotiating with a star that never cared who won. So look at your hand again. Whatever shade it is not random. It is not meaningless. It is not a ranking. It is an answer written slowly across thousands of generations, an answer to the oldest question the sun ever asked life on Earth. How much of me can you survive?